Try again.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Benefactor at Chaotic Neutral Games. I'm Simon, your storyteller for tonight. Hey, 2 for 2. As we join Rodrigo, Corinne, Felicia, Kate, and I was about to say Kate because we've had to fill in. It is Nick's birthday this weekend, so for you guys who are already in the community, feel free to send your wishes his way. But he's taking the night off, which means that Cora now has to fly solo with these three. It's going to be good fun. As usual, you can help or indeed hinder by checking out the options in the chat bar below. You can join our wonderful community by finding the Discord link in the channel notes, or you can support us in what we do by becoming a subscriber. But with no further ado, let's start episode 125 of The Benefactor. And we are back. Hello to our players and hello to everybody in the chat. And yes, Kev, Hermit and Scornfused have been passed the latest batch of ban hammers in light of the current Twitch problems. So that's one of our defenses on top of the usual hero that we have, or Prime. So yeah. We have more protection now, being that I also modded most of the players as well. I need to jump in and model the Numenera guys on Monday. So when we left off, you guys had gone back to part of the very beginning. One of the gold mines in which the rift first appeared, where this strange red residuum had turned up. Long ago, and it turns out it was a tainted residuum. Residuum, normally this beautiful gold glowing dust that is used during enchantment. It is a coalescence of magic that can be used and crafted and make enchantments. The taint on this is that it's colored with blood, because this is used, it's defined out of soul energy, and as a result is cursed by the gods. Anybody who uses it, but anybody who creates it is automatically cursed by the gods, and anybody who tries to use this stuff automatically knows that it's somehow wrong. This was found a long time ago, and one of the previous rifts killed Par-Gadwal, Cora's father. It's only now that you came to a second rift that Cora was able to speak to an echo of her father.
The Farewell did something.
Farewell, well, there was going to be a way of Cora being able to do it, but I put a bit of chronomancy in there as well for.
Oh, I meant the other thing that he did where he rolled under his level.
Oh, yes. So, you guys cross back through the rift. Renata closes the rift, and that's it. Once again, you are heroes to the realm. Whilst you were doing this particular battle, the rest of the rescue efforts around you have managed to at least find the bodies of the miners. They're now being rushed to the Temple of Pelor, where hopefully their souls will consent to them coming back into this world and accepting resurrection. Resurrection on the Duke's coin. You have said that there's a few things that you want to do. You want to talk to Ola Soraka, the supervisor of the original, the supervisor of the mine during the original rift, and Par Gatherall's old employer. But also, you had an interesting conversation with Renata Green. Specifically, Renata Green in 2 hours' time. She did a little bit of time looping in order to get things done. She couldn't do anything in the moment, but she could cheat herself by knowing when she was distracted, getting past herself to be in the same place twice. Chronomancy 101. So in 2 hours' time, you've got Renata to speak to. Right now, if you wish, you have Ola Soraka to speak to, but also a simple request from the echo of the man called Father. He asked Tara, Cora's former name, to go find her mother and to explain to her everything that's gone on.
Go speak to your mum.
You don't call enough. It's not fair.
You know, you don't call, you don't write, you make me think you're dead. Yeah, you're in trouble.
You are in so much trouble.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You know where Mar Gatherall is. She is in the Emerald Mile at the moment. Or Emerald Way, sorry. Emerald Mile. Emerald Miles in Scotland, in Edinburgh. Emerald Way. Emerald Way is the place to shop in Ostergald, and in fact, any of the Ostermark lands. Ostergald is the capital of the Ostermark territories, and Emerald Way is the place to buy high fashion, delicacies, luxury goods, jewelry, all that kind of thing. As such, it's strange. It goes from, in the city, it goes from the parade grounds that's in the middle of the city, the real hub of the city, where the guild hall is, where the courts are, where the city hall is, and very close to all those three places, the Hawk and Harness, where you live. You live almost slap bang in the middle of the city. The opposite end of Emerald Way is the Liberty Quarter, where a lot of the Thieves Guild operate. In fact, they pretty much own the entire district. However, the merchants of the Emerald Way have learnt to survive together. The fact that they're so close to the thieves is not a problem with them. A few discreet payments and the promise of breaking every bone in your body if you break the agreement means that both the Thieves Guild and the Merchants Guild are in somewhat of a friendly, honest standoff. She has a shop there and somehow has managed to start enchanting the clothes that she creates. There's clothes that move as if they're in the wind. There are clothes with animated patterns. They glow slightly. There's clothes that develop patterns of frost in beautiful patterns across them. There's clothes that make you feel cool regardless of where you are and things like that. All minor enchantments. But she doesn't enchant. She's never known how to enchant. All she does is just gets an idea to make a garment, and the garments are usually unique. She creates the garments, puts it on a mannequin, and next thing you know, people are bidding for it or paying quite substantial prices for this one-of-a-kind item. Margatherall has become somewhat of a legend within the city. And as she confided to Cora last time, she's not entirely sure how she does it. So, you're stepping out of the mine and you can see the last of the bodies being taken down to the city. Ola Soraka is currently talking to a dignitary of the city and the head of the local newspaper. She's showing, I guess, as far as you can see from here, a certain amount of remorse. How much of that is for show and expected, you don't know. But she looks stressed, that's one thing's for sure. So what would you like to do?
Correct.
Okay, that was quite a thing. I think we need to talk to Ola. I'm not good at talking.
He's the one in charge of the mine shaft, correct?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a happy talk or is it a talk?
It's... I mean, it's kind of a talk, but it's... Let's find out stuff first. There's no point in just... I mean, I really want to do the talk one, but I need to...
Political side first, then.
I mean, she's gotta be part of this. She's gotta know what's going on. These rifts have kept opening here, and she's kept mining it.
Well, that might not be up to her, even though she's the chief. These operations often involve the crown as well. You can't just shut down a profitable mine shaft at the cost of just a few lives.
I'm gonna ignore
That's
that
not
very
really
last
how it works,
comment,
buddy.
Considering, but yeah. Well, let's go find out if
All
she's
I'm
got a boss.
saying is that even though she might want to close it down, that might not have been a possibility back then.
Right. Fair enough.
You do notice that Ola Soraka is talking to, as I said, that a dignitary walks off at this point. And she's left with one person that you've met before and one person that you haven't. She's human. She's dressed in mostly kind of a middle blue, like a royal blue, broken up by dove gray sections on her clothes, with a kind of ruff around her neck of what seems to be an off-white but very soft kind of fleece. A very long fleece as well, maybe like Angora or something like that. And she's listening to what Ola Soraka's saying, but you can see that she's not writing anything down. In fact, she's doing this, tapping the top of her notepad over and over and over again. You have a feeling that she doesn't really care for what Ola's saying and is waiting for Ola to say something significant. And this is Hobra Winterscribe. She owns the newspaper. You've been to her before. She knows who you are. You've given her an interview, and she's provided you information in the past and has said she's very happy to do so again, even without payment or anything like that, presumably networking with the heroes of the hour to make sure that she keeps them on side. Next to her is quite a muscular female. She's not wearing what I would call armor, but she's got a kind of leather riding clothes, I guess it would be. She's kind of got a leather jacket and seems to be kind of like, I guess, like a tank top underneath it, and she's got you can see slung over the horse that's near her, you can see like a riding cloak. She's got what seem to be soft leather trews, and then quite substantial leather riding boots. She's got calloused hands, kind of like a sun-scorched brow. I have a feeling that she spends a lot of time on the road. She is insistently asking questions with less tact than Hobra, kind of like just shooting them at Ola, and Ola's throwing back answers in a very well-practiced air. You can tell that this woman has very strange eyes as well. She's got heterochromia, so she's got one blue and one brown eye. Other than that, you can see that, with furrowed brow, she's kind of reeling off questions about what you can overhear: mine safety and the use of artifice and the use of magic, and is it that you're not willing to use enchantments to be able to teleport people out if they are in trouble? Surely, a gold mine could afford this, of all things, if not a diamond mine, but yeah, a gold mine should be able to afford it as well. You can literally print your own money. And Ola is giving off well-practiced and calm answers, but you can see the pate of sweat showing that she's stressed by the situation, and her eyes are darting around all the time. What would you like to do?
Look, Cora, do you want to send in the practice politician? Stop me.
Well, I mean, Glory, you're pretty good, if I remember, with that newspaper lady.
Understand each other.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if anyone's gonna get some answers, it's probably her. And if she can't, maybe you can. I wonder if some people do some talking and some people do some hunting. She's clearly distracted right now. We could maybe sneak into a office or room of some
where
kind.
Ola's office is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to break into somewhere? I'm game.
That's what I'm thinking.
Of course you are.
They will never know I was there.
Okay, so how do we split this?
Terrifying prospect.
Glory clearly is a great talker.
You're a good talker too.
Yeah, I know. It's just figuring out the questions to ask. I can ask them very well, but I could go with Glory while you two go searching. If you,
yes.
What do you think, Aiden? Where do you want to be, here, talking and finding information, or breaking in?
I mean, I think you guys have it all covered, don't you? I'm just here for emotional support, if you can call it that.
Well, you're definitely often very emotional, so we'll support you in that. Don't worry.
No, it was deep. All right.
Well, I don't want to. Okay.
Listen, if it doesn't involve ghosts or other weird nonsense, then yeah, I don't know what to do, man.
I mean, you're sneaky, aren't you?
No, actually.
I think I'm the roguey character. That's not a rogue.
Like out of character, I have high dexterity, not high stealth. If that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah, you stay there and look pretty. I'm gonna go and.
I already failed at that. Good luck.
So obviously Nick isn't here. Should what do we are we puppeting him? Are we saying he's going off to do something? Is he recovering from the spells?
No, you've got. Yeah, Farewell says, no, you've got this. I want to watch.
Yeah.
And he kind of looks at you and says, We've talked about her a lot, but this is the first time I've had a chance to study her.
Mm-hmm.
And he steps off to the side.
Yeah.
So he's going to be reading. I think he's got the message cantrip.
Yeah, he's got message and he has high insight, so he can like
he can read lips,
actually,
right?
so.
Yeah,
he can read lips too.
He can lip read, so he can see.
Okay. I don't know why, but I feel like if Farewell were to help, it's gonna end with like a horrible shift in the space-time continuum or something, because that's just how he rolls now.
Yeah.
He sneezes and 30 timelines ceases to exist.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
No, but it's risky.
Yes.
30 timelines disappearing is always a bad thing. Anyway, let's get going. So Glory and Cora walk up to the two bards. Almost all reporters in this world are bards.
Mm-hmm.
And Ola. And Eclipse suddenly just ducks behind something and disappears.
Oh, I forgot the fish back at home. Bye.
Okay.
You know what? That is such a Eclipse excuse to use that I think everyone would believe it.
She could just go, "Oh, shiny," and run away, and they would accept it. Let's face it.
I gotta go iron my dog.
Yeah, cat's on fire. It's me. I'm on fire.
Cat.
I mean, Cora could make that happen. Your tail. Do you care about your tail too much?
I do care about my tail. Please don't burn my tail.
Smoke it.
Please do not immolate my spine. So you walk up to it, and you can see that the kind of hardy, kind of Rough Rider bard turns and says, "So what you're saying is everything was considered and you didn't go for the right option?" And Ola's looking a bit exasperated now and says, "Look, yes, I am the governor of the mine, and for all intents and purposes, the owner of the business. But the gold belongs to the Duke. And as I say, everything has to be done by committee. The votes weren't there. Maybe after this event, that will change. Or maybe we'll start changing some of the shafts completely to stay away from that area. It all seems to have happened in one section of the mine. We can just stay away from it and hope that the rifts don't travel too far." You can see that this kind of, squinting, interesting-eyed character is about to go forward, but then she looks to the side to Hobra and kind of gives a moment for Hobra to step in. And Hobra says, "I guess what we want to know now, what Ostergald wants to know now, is does this endanger our jobs, our economy, our lives? How many people are going to have to go through the harrowing effect of being raised in the Pelor Temple? And then how many families are going to have to mourn those who, for some reason, just didn't come back?" There seems to be a line in the sand here, Ola. The first time that it happened, sure, we were reacting to it, but now it seems to be that nothing changed, even though we've had a chance to prepare and prevent. And she fixes Ola with this hard stare, and Ola says, "Well, now we have a trend. Before, it just being a freak accident was maybe a way that people could explain away this, but now, as you say, the pressure is mounting, even amongst my own stakeholders, to ensure that a third time never happens. Even though we've learnt a lot about what's happening here." Hobra goes, "Oh, really? What is happening?" "I'm afraid, Hobra, that's between myself and the Duke and some of his trusted advisors." Hobra rolls her eyes and goes, Yes. The Green Organization and the university, no doubt. You can understand that other factions within the city are starting to feel second best, and that something's being pulled over our eyes. In fact, you may not know it, this is a larger event than it seems. This isn't just a terrible loss of life and questions of policy and safety, but also this is drawing divisions between those in the city. Those that were healed by the siege of Ostergal are now starting to fray. And I'm one of them. And she's glaring at Ola. You are, after all, just a governor of a mine. And Ola, you can see this half-orc woman, very well dressed, well-to-do, quite attractive, just glares at Hobber, and you see a bit of the orc come to the surface of the, I will tear your fucking throat out, don't you be looking at me like that. The challenge is like, you can see almost like a heat shimmer between the two glares as you pop in, and her head snapping round, Hobber goes, and the heroes of the hour have arrived. Now, this is where the story is. Were it not for your intervention, I'm sure we wouldn't have been able to get through all the rubble in time. In fact, this would have been an absolute disgrace and disaster, embarrassing to the whole, if it weren't for your...
I think it's still pretty embarrassing.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. But I'm saying there could have been a lot more loss of life. Who knows, the bodies could have been well beyond the chance of a potential resurrection if you hadn't arrived. And I hear that you're also to thank for closing the rift this time.
Yes, we've invested quite a lot of manpower into this endeavor, and it's proven worthwhile. After all, no one in this city wants to see an accident like, well, last time. Isn't that right, Cora?
Oh, well, it seems that these accidents keep happening, doesn't it? So I wonder if anything is planned to do something about that, because, we can't be on call every time there's a disaster just to try and save the day and stop people from dying or bring them back from the dead and close rifts and things, so,
Ola says, what? And as she's just about to say, well, Hobra just tramples her and says, well, exactly, twice now. And we know full well that you've been going the length and breadth of the Empire and to other nations to help those in need. Ostergald should be able to...
Guess what happened? Look at chat. Look at chat.
Okay.
Hermit.
You know what to do, Hermit.
Yeah.
Give me a 6 and 100. And I'll choose when it comes in. And she says, well, exactly. You'll have to go to those in need. You should be answering threats that are basically just simple infrastructural preparations.
Indeed. It is quite embarrassing for the same accident to happen twice, especially in such close proximity.
Well, we're hoping there's going to be some significant changes that will, and this is Hobra still, some significant changes that will mean that there'll be action rather than the previous inaction. And you can tell there's a direct threat to Ola. Ola at that point does pipe up and say, well, not much is going to change, only that which needs to change. We've achieved what we've needed to here today. And as a result, I think the next time we'll be ready. We've learned a lot more about the Rift. Last time, it was all about the rescue. The Rift caught us by surprise. This time, we actually called our Arcanists to come here and study the Rift, and study they have. We believe that we would be able to put some sort of ward in place. It'll take a little time and it'll take a lot of money, but we're willing to do it. And yes, Hobra, we are willing to look at certain implements that will allow miners to either go intangible or potentially teleport short distance back to a nearby safe spot. Again, this is going to be a huge undertaking and a large cost, but as your colleague has quite eloquently put it, We mine our own money here. As such, we have the means, and we should be doing the correct thing. But what's done is done, and what needed to happen has happened.
What needed to happen exactly?
She looks at you, and it's clear that she's just fobbing off, and she goes, well, studying the rift, of course.
Right.
I'm not in there.
That's always the trouble.
Fascinating. Well, I'm glad that you're taking it into account, even though, as my associate here will agree with, these are changes that should have happened. How many years ago was it?
I
11 or 12?
Just past the decade.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. You've had quite some time to already get started on them. I'm surprised there hasn't been any improvements.
There will be, and very quickly. We've been waiting for the last, as I say, decades to study what very quickly arrived and disappeared last time.
So you've been expecting it and hoping that it comes back so you can study it. Is that what you're saying?
The reason why we were able to save people so quickly as we did, your help notwithstanding, it was invaluable, is because we have been prepared for something that we weren't quite sure what to prepare for. Now, as I say, our greatest arcanists of Ostergal have managed to get the energy signature of the rift, and as such, should be able to prevent it happening again.
Oh, really? You
looks...
do realize that rifts don't have always have the same energy signal, right?
They do if they go to the same plane or metaplane.
Okay. You're not mining for the plane or the rift. As far as I'm concerned, that wasn't the idea of this mine.
No.
But it
Golden
seems...
residuum.
Yeah. Is it only... You telling me that it's only found where you know that this rift is? There are gold mines all over the place.
No, indeed, that there are gold mines all over the place. But why should we abandon a gold mine? For one thing, if we abandoned it, there would be other people coming here trying to take the gold. They would find the same rift and they wouldn't have the same support that we can now give. And that's the main thing. We have learnt something now. And she looks Glory dead in the eye and goes, in fact, we can now ward ourselves from anything with that signature.
I hope you do.
The university has abandoned many projects in order to get this ward fully lifted up and ready to go. There will be no work, and she says this to the bards as well, there'll be no work in the mine. It will be cut off by security and the city guard until the ward is in place, at which point business can continue safely. Or as safe as mining ever is.
Very well. That's good to see you have that contingency. Though I wonder how the university could put it together so quickly.
Wards, as I'm sure you'll know, Miss Teskakotl, are pretty standard in their construction. What you need to do is make sure that you, calibrate them to what you're warding. If you know the exact signature of a spell or attack, you can block it in its entirety. This will require a certain amount of magical fuel, but we have residuum in the mine that we can use to fuel the ward. So the mine can start looking after itself. As I say, no one regrets this reoccurrence more than me. But it was necessary.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was a very big inconvenience for you.
Are you quite all right, Ms. Cora? Your skin seems to be getting a little dry. And sure enough, as Glory looks at you, Glory, you can see that Cora's skin is starting to get dry and scaly
Oh,
and
God.
rough.
Oh God.
Yeah, she's looking desiccated.
Hmm.
This may be a side effect of the rift, but not one we've seen and not one we can prepare for. So cleric, please. And the cleric comes along and he goes, oh, sure. It could be any number of things. I'm sure that we can sort this out. So cleric of Arathis and goes, okay, no problem. Right. Places his hands on you without hesitation. He doesn't care for his own thing. And he goes, I shall first attempt to get the body to restore. He uses restoration spells. Nothing happens. Goes up. In that case, clearly, when you were in the other plane, you triggered some form of latent curse. Not a problem.
What have you done, Scorm?
Still well within
I'm managing.
Still
If
well
for once it
within
wasn't Scorm, it
the
was
power
Hermit.
of the great architect. And everybody looks at him and he goes, but Arathis had the title before he came along, you know. And says, anyway, in the name of great Arathis, I call upon the learning of the cultures that she has brought together throughout the years. And with this, with our collective consciousness, I say, curse, be banished. Places his hands on your forehead in a very dramatic, almost like evangelist faith healer kind of like, you know, be gone, demon. I'm
saved.
Nothing happens. But he goes, well, it could be a medical thing, I suppose. And and Farewell comes in and says, out the way.
I was about to say, when is Farrell coming in?
Farewell, instead of starting to get his Raven Queen on, instead just says, yeah, Glory, can you take a look, through your thing?
Ah, of course. I shall take a look at it.
Sure. Glory brings up the star opal over her eye, and you can see this bright, cacophonous, multicolored spray coming from Cora. Maelstrom. Direct Maelstrom, also known as the Wild Magic.
Yes, it's a simple case of maelstorms acting up. I suppose that the rift has made a natural state here.
Ola, showing her education, says, well, there we are. If it's Maelstrom, I mean, you all use a large amount of magic. Everybody knows that there can be bleed off of magic when you use a lot of it, and you have just used a lot of magic. So that's all it is. It's just a small rip in the fabric of this realm. It'll fix itself well enough. Just we'll keep an eye on Miss Yorsenal, and the best of care will be given to her. The city has placed its resources at everyone's disposal here today. All of you are being supported. Hobra is just, kind of gives a snort of derision at this.
Valid. Yes, we shall see to Cora's care, if you don't mind.
We will leave her in your capable hands. Farewell mutters something under his breath as he takes Cora to one side and goes, "Do you want to keep questioning her? I can say that you're good for now."
Maybe. I mean, Glory's got this. I'll maybe just give me a minute.
He kind of goes, "Do you think we use too much magic?"
Yes.
He's kind of got your hand, and he's running his hand over this really rough skin on your palm. It's by the way, your baseline AC is 16 right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling pretty weak.
So no, AC is good.
AC.
Oh,
Armor
my
class.
AC. Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Not
I've
your,
become
not your
strong.
HP, your
like-
AC.
I got you. Yeah.
Your AC right now is 16 in the nip. So whatever you've got on top of that, it's 16 plus your armor.
Right. Okay, that's pretty good. 16, right?
Yeah. It's like, welcome to life as a turtle.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
You're not a turtle, but you have basically rock hard skin. It's like stone skin or bark skin.
Ales.
But it's got a different CGI effect. But yeah, welcome to Maury's score. I'm AC 16 in my knickers, love.
I thought it was 17
yeah.
for twirls.
Yeah, total at 17, but they're allowed a shield. That's the only thing that they can.
Yeah, because they can't add
They
their
can't have
AC.
armor.
They can't have armor, and they don't benefit from Dex.
Dex, yeah. So, yeah, that's basically what's happened to you. I'll read it out. This is from the Ravenloft Wild Magic Surge table that you can get from Drive-Thru RPG. And yeah, so you got for an hour, your skin grows dry and scaly. Your AC cannot be below 16 for this time. So, I've ruled it as a base of 16 because that's more fun. So, you... Glory, you've got Ola, who's revealed that she knows something about magic. Now, for a businesswoman, yes, magic is the technology around here. Everybody who's that level of education knows a bit about magic, but the Maelstrom is, she might have heard about it, but she seems to be very confident. Also, she's been talking about warding. You take a cold read of her, and she doesn't look like an arcanist, yet she's talking a lot about arcane technology. And you can see that this has lost Hobra and the other bard for a moment. So you're kind of the one that can go toe to toe with her.
I want to do that. Like, if she's showing off that she's arcane trained, I kind of want to test her.
She
To
seems
see
to be
if
arcane
she's-
educated rather than trained, but yes.
Yeah, but like, see if she's the one that knows this, or if this is information that's been told to her,
Okay.
and
yeah,
she's
sure.
just repeating it. I don't know how to do that though.
Remember, a lot of magic in this is just improv and riffing, so you go for
Sure.
it.
Well, you seem to know quite a lot about rifts. I assume you studied at the university at some point. Tell me, did you ever read up about the Maelstrom fluctuations and how they distort reality? The specifics, I mean. It's so common to talk about it, I know, but...
I'm afraid not. I've been taught what I need to know after the first event. The first thing I made sure I did was getting informed and looking at what options are available, hence my knowledge of warding. The university and the Duke. She takes that moment, and you can see Hobra's just chewing a wasp when she name drops the Duke. And of course, your very own Renata Green has been very informative regarding the subject.
Ah, yes, it is one of her favorite subjects to study. Quite fascinating too. I'm sure Edmund lended his resources to you for this endeavor.
You first name dropping the Duke is not lost on Hobra or Ola.
Well, he did tell us to call him that, so
Yeah, but normally outside of the familiar, you would refer to him as His Grace or the Duke. But you just like, oh yeah, Edmund is fine with this. So yeah, there's that moment of, oh, you're in that heavily with him, are you? And Ola says, well, if His Grace has already made your acquaintance, you would know that he has been taking this with the utmost priority, especially considering what happened down the coast when some of the errant material from the last rift.
Talking about the explosion that we caused.
Wait, what?
She's talking about the explosion of the facility that we caused that they thought was an accident.
That I understood. I thought you were
seeing-
reacting to chat there.
No, no.
After seeing the potency of that material and what it can do to the landscape, we've obviously been looking to make sure that this mine doesn't become one giant crater.
Oh, yes, that was quite a fascinating thing to study. Well, nothing really remained. The speculations regarding how it happened has been, well, doing the rounds among the Green Organization.
Yes. And one thing that was discovered on the crater, as I'm sure you'll know if you studied it yourself, was that the magic signature of the rift was nearby.
Oh, it was more
Yes.
than nearby, I would say. The fact that it had traveled so long, it was in part due to the materials being shuffled out of the mine, which is part of our worry considering you continuing to mine here, since that still brings out more of the magic residue. It really sells into a stone with all the residuum.
Well, we have a new plan for that, thankfully. Any of the red crystals that get recovered from this will be placed upon an old ship, taken out to sea and detonated.
Could I do an insight check on something like that?
Absolutely. And
Like,
Farewell will as well.
So
Good.
yeah,
My insight isn't amazing, but
no.
Farewell got a 17 on the dice.
well,
On the dice, that's like
like 28
yeah,
or something. He's
I,
got a
I
plus
rolled
11.
a nat 1
Okay.
plus the
Well,
3.
you get to
and plus the
re-roll.
That's true. I get to re-roll the nat 1.
Halflings.
Of course I do. Insight. Then I rolled a 3 plus 3, plus the D4, but
Yeah.
Farewell scratches his nose and gives you a nod as if
Plus
to
the
say
one.
she's telling the truth.
on a plus a 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we think that's a good idea though? Like blowing up the thing, like spreading it potentially everywhere and stuff?
You can ask, but other than that, you can form your own opinions.
How safe would that be, though? Even if you're detonating the material, it could leave residue. Do you have a plan to suck it into a potential wormhole while detonating it in order to ensure none of it is left on this plane?
Well, it turns out that none of the material was left over from the detonation on the coastline. We
Well,
mined to see if we could get rid of it, and we couldn't find any of it. In fact,
as far as we can tell, the center point of that explosion was quite far in. Are you sure you can create one that big out on the ocean without the ripples causing havoc along the shorelines?
we don't think it will make something as much as a tidal wave. And we're not going to be detonating it below the water. We're going to be detonating it on the water. Not only that, but we've made sure that we're not taking and she stops herself, the red crystals into the city. We'll be taking it past the city to one of the cliff points. It shall be lowered into rowboats and rowed out to the ship, so that if it does detonate near the city, it will detonate upon the water. The water itself should deflect most of the blast, and the rest is history. But yes, once we are satisfied that we've got rid of most of the material and we have placed it on the ship will be taken out into the open sea, and some of our strongest arcanists are going to be setting a set of runes that explode and consume anything nearby, any power sources nearby, including these crystals, which is what we believe caused the previous detonation. The detonation itself that caused that huge crater was a magical spell, a destructive magical spell that went through the red residue. That went through the red crystals. She doesn't say residue.
I suppose that would cause quite the explosion, considering what those crystals are. And Gloria looks her straight in the eyes,
Yes,
because I
it
want
will,
her to know
but we can't
that
afford to
I
have
have figured
anything
out
left.
what they are.
Mhm. She goes, yes, it will, but we can't afford to have anything left. Good thing that under the right conditions, the crystals are combustible.
Very true. how do you plan on dealing with them in the mine? After all, having that much combustible material underneath the city, right for the taking, is quite, how shall we say, explosive.
Thankfully, we've noticed that unless you actually pour magic or any other form of high energy like electricity into the crystals, you can move them around with things like mage hands. But if it comes to it, we can use some protective equipment, some tools, and just take it out by hand. Miners have been doing that for years. We have some volunteers already.
Just to remind myself, we were finding some bodies with the dust, like not necessarily the dust on them, but like almost like it's a fungus growing from them.
Growing out of the bodies.
Yeah.
You have noticed that the bodies that have come out haven't had any of the crystals on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do we?
We
I
found
mean,
one.
We did find one, and we know that we were stopping them from taking them. I
Yeah.
can't remember what we did with the bodies,
We hid it
took
in a
two
body
of the
bag.
bodies, put them in body bags, and said, "We're taking this back for study."
Right.
Yeah.
But like
some of the others that you know that were far enough in to have crystals on them, you have a feeling that they got cleaned off. The bodies themselves got cleaned before they left the mine.
But that doesn't mean that there's not, unseen issues and things.
Traces
so
or whatever, could be.
And if it is, do we think that it is like a sort of fungus that could grow again? So like they take the body somewhere and it could
know
spread.
that
Like
the red residuum is corrupted, and like the ones we found in the facility were from demons, but this growing out of people might just be cannibalistic trait of a residuum that grows out of people's fleeting life force as they're dying or something.
I was going to get you to roll, but Glory's hit the nail on the head there. The more that you think about it, the more it makes sense. You've been told that a lot of free energy releases from the body upon death as a soul leaves the body.
I love the fact that my bullshit talking suddenly just made sense.
This was mentioned. This was mentioned a long time ago. As the soul leaves the body, it basically is an explosion of energy.
Apparently, anyone can say words. You just did.
Yeah. You said the right words as well. You also heard it from an expert entropist.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah,
an expert entropist that Farewell doesn't like, and the fact that he is correct does not please Farewell.
No, it does not.
Yeah. So yes, an expert entropist has told you that upon the point of death, a large amount of energy leaves the body, and it is magical in nature. It's just part of it. It's just what it is. So yeah, you find yourself quite happy to suddenly regurgitate that knowledge and put two and two together and go, yeah, actually that would make a lot of sense. That's something that we could. That's something that would grow the crystals, because that's presumably.
Well,
actually, not even presumably. You do know from a previous from previous conversations that they found out about red residuum when they went in there and saw it growing off a corpse of a demon.
Yeah.
So when that demon got killed, even though it didn't have its soul leaving its body, the act of it dying created a large amount of energy, and it was that energy that they rode out of there to be able to get the residuum to grow. It happens naturally in that demiplane, and you saw that because the demiplane was spilling through the rift into the local area, it was also happening to the miners, but it shouldn't happen outside of that.
Well, I'm certain that these implementation will prove at least somewhat stable, considering the university's involvement. Though we would like to send our own arcanists to check on them once they're in place to ensure the safety of the rest of the city.
I'm sure that your extra help will be gratefully received.
And while we're on the topic, I was asked to relay the message that the Raven Queen Temple and Father Farewell wants to make sure all of the bodies of the deceased go to the right place afterwards.
Yep. There's my boy.
And you will make sure to send all of them there, correct?
Yes, we already have the joint faith agreement of Ostergold that we will be following to the letter.
Very good. Well, Habra, I
Ooh,
do hope
Ola's
I didn't.
Ola's going to throw in addition to that, and she said, that's the Dawn Gods, you understand, not Tiamat.
Of course I do. I know I'm not at home. Please. I'm not a commoner. I leave my god where it's supposed to be.
Whereas I am a commoner, born and raised in Ostergold, and we know how to look after our own.
Wait, is Ola Saraka just saying that?
Yeah?
I mean, Cora's gonna scoff and, like, look around at the dead bodies if they're still around, you know, and... you know, she's just said we know how to look after our own. She just killed a bunch of people in her mind. She doesn't know. So Cora's definitely going to point that out, even if it is just a yeah, right.
I'm sure you do. And Gloria gives a cursory glance around before settling on Habra. And Habra, I do hope I didn't disturb your interview too much. It's been a while.
It wasn't so much an interview, more trying to make sense of a senseless situation. In fact, I think the interview is right here, and points at you and says, I wonder if I can have some of your time. And she takes you and Cora's shoulder and says, the heroes of the hour, after all. I mean, I was barking up the wrong tree. I'll leave the rest of the dogs to that one. And she starts walking away with you, and I'll cross over to Eclipse. Eclipse, you take the directions to the offices of the mine. At the moment, everybody is going crazy with the various events. You guys are famous. They knew that you arrived. You arrived quite visibly as well, very heroically. So you walking around, you're hiding in plain sight. You realize up to a point, you don't really need to hide. You can just walk through and just kind of like, go, keep up the good work and all the rest of it to everybody. It's only when you get close to the governor's office that you're kind of like, okay, now I've got to be a little bit sneaky. And you just dart around the corner, and you can see that she has indeed a very substantial lock. This is a dwarven-made lock that she has. The door also is there's no wood in this door. It's all metal, brocaded. There are bits of wood veneer, but you're not fooled. You know there's metal underneath. And then you're reminded, oh yeah, gold mine.
Yeah.
And you know that somewhere around here will be the vault with unprocessed gold ore. That'll be quite a large vault. But there will be, for example, other bits, residuum, gems that are found from time to time, which will probably be in a smaller vault, which will likely be connected to the governor's office. And if not that, just everything else to do with running a gold mine, which in itself is quite expensive or quite valuable information. This is not an easy lock. Quite the opposite. And
yeah, but
Well,
she's
I'm better.
Eclipse of the moon.
Well, I'm better.
and I need to actually look something up as well, because I didn't think he'd be doing this. I just need to check one quick note about Ola.
What will win? A dwarven lock of extreme caliber, or a cat with opposable thumbs, a mage hand, and a lucky trait.
Unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, the door is there ripe for the picking, Eclipse. What are you doing?
I picked the lock.
Okay.
Well, first of all, check for traps.
I nearly didn't let you get away with it. Give me an investigation check.
Where's Beyond?
Yeah.
I should press it.
This has become level appropriate.
It's level appropriate. Check for traps. Investigation. Plus 14. Well, I roll under 10, so I take 10. 24.
24. Yes, you can see one of the traps that's there in terms of the physical traps, which is what investigation does, is a mechanical klaxon.
Klaxon?
A klaxon is like a bullhorn. It's like an air horn. Wah, wah,
Okay.
wah.
Okay.
What you can see from the bits that you can see is that anybody who tries to tamper with this this door and does it the incorrect way will cause what you're guessing is probably some form of acidic reaction that causes a large amount of gas to be expelled, and will basically start making this kind of wah sound if the trap is triggered.
Okay. I want to disable the trap.
Okay.
Well, well, I check for? I don't have detect magic, but can I detect look for any arcane traps as well?
Yes, you can do an Arcana roll.
Yeah. This one I am not proficient in, so I cannot take 10. There's a total of 18, though.
Okay. The second you take a look at it, you start sniffing around the door, and you start looking for any kind of runes that have maybe been put into door jams. You look for things that might have been smeared on the door, and just at the end, they're like gold dust around the lock. You check near the hinges as well, and again, this little bit of glitter. You know that gold dust is a part of the arcane lock spell.
Yes, which means they've probably done the lock spell on this thing, which makes it harder to unpick. Okay. I don't think I have any way of really getting rid of that.
It's just my excuse for increasing the difficulty.
Okay. Well,
It seems to be a mechanical lock, so mechanical chemical lock, and there is.
Well, let's disable the trap first of all.
Okay. So that's going to be a
Mage hand.
That's going to be a thieves' tools check, but you can use mage hand leisure domain with your thieves' tools.
Yeah.
By the looks of it, one of the things that you need to do is to actually, how would this work? So what seems to be that there is on the lock, if you end up hitting the wrong thing on the lock, it will trigger a spring, and on the end of the spring is a small pinion that will hit a glass vial and put acid over the and drop the powder into some acid that will then cause the gas that makes the sound. Complex, very, very sensitive. For one thing, you're pretty sure you can't slam this door because it would probably set it off. And you know that all of the major working parts are on the inside. You would probably have to break the spring without triggering it.
Yeah.
It's quite a difficult trap.
Oh.
Almost like a trap that has diamonds and all sorts of other things behind it.
Well, let's break through. Okay. Do I want to take 20 or do I want to? I'm going to use a luck point. Well, no, still at 20.
Okay.
So yeah, 20.
You have a hair-raising moment where you're there pulling the spring along just to get to a point where you can put a breaker hook behind it. Breaker hook is a hook that's got kind of like a V-shaped blade. So you just pull it towards you and then just keep pulling and pulling and pulling until it pings. And there's a moment where you hear this this very sharp thwack, and you're like, okay, no sound, sure. And as you jiggle the hook, there's this very flaccid spring now.
Oh, cool. Okay, now time for the actual door.
Okay, the door itself is proper dwarven artisanry. This is complex. You can see that it's not a regular key that you would put in. This key that you would have to put in there is effectively a cylinder. And as you turn the key itself turns within itself and changes the outside of the key as you're turning it. So instead of it just being a fixed shape going around, it actually changes shape in the lock as you turn it. Incredibly complex.
Well, if I don't succeed on unlocking the door myself, I'm gonna go find someone who has the key.
The key is on Ola Soraka. It's her office.
I can't
Oh.
believe this D&D game suddenly became a Thief the Dark Project playthrough.
Hey, we haven't had a good lock picking in a while, so yeah.
Yeah, let the rogue do the rogue thing.
Yes.
And besides,
Cat
we have a
Taffer.
cat, and there is not a single door in this reality that can stop her,
We just need
except for
trump
the
cards.
Dust Cold.
There's
Except-
one-
But
there's
the
one
Dust
thing-
Cold is technically not on this reality.
There's
We
one
need
other thing
drunk
about
guard.
this lock. Because this key changes sequence as it gets turned, if you fail at this, you won't be able to reset it. You get one shot.
Okay. Well, I rolled a dirty 20, and I used luck, and I rolled the exact same roll. So I rolled a dirty 20.
A dirty 20. Okay. So you're there, and you've got several lock picks out at once as you have to be all sides of this key at the same time. You can see that as this key turns, there's little kind of beads that come in and go out, come in and go
Oh,
out.
I have finesse point. So can I roll?
You can use a finesse point if you wish.
Yes. Come on, something. No, I'm still at 20.
Okay. With a sickening, the lock seems to be stuck halfway through its cycle. You've been defeated by a lock, a big lock though.
Well, I'm
To be
gonna-
fair, this was a DC 18 before Arcane Lock got applied.
okay. So I'm gonna cast invisibility on myself,
Yep.
and I'm gonna go and steal Alataraka's key.
Sure. So Ola has just been ditched. Actually, this is happening at the same time as the conversation.
Yes, so I can
So-
just come back invisible. And
Thankfully, as the conversation was happening, because you're invisible, we don't have to worry about the. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to go for this. So, part of the previous conversation, as Glory's starting to probe Ola on her knowledge of the arcane, you are kind of invisibly right up next to her pockets to try and decide where the key must be. You decide to place your bet. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that, because if we go back in time and you fail, then we'll have to rewrite that scene. No, I'm going to say that Ola is walking away from the previous scene, absolutely fuming, as she heads past you invisibly, goes up to a clerk and grabs him by the scruff of the neck. This tall half-orc woman grabbing this scrawny little wood elf pulls him towards her and says, "Get Renata now. Where did she go?" And he's like, I don't know. I mean, she was down there, and she's there like, "I don't care. Tell her I need an explanation for this. I trusted her." And at the point where she's doing that, I will allow you to do a sleight of hand check with advantage because you're invisible.
Thank you. I am rolling for crap today. 21.
21. And
It's against her passive perception, I think.
I was about to say, so let's see, I've got to pull up her stats. So she is...
I would be surprised if she has a higher...
That's fine. No, she's got a fairly good passive perception. She's got 18, but no, you still beat it. So yeah, you managed to slip it out of your pocket, out of her pocket, and scamper back to the room with the key. The second that you put the key in, there's this kind of the act of pushing this strange cylinder inside resets where the lock was, but as you push it in, there's this ding, 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 and you have a feeling that if Ola had put the key in, the lock would have told her that somebody had tampered with it.
Ah, whoops.
Those clever dwarfs. If the key resets the lock back to its start position, there's little bells that it triggers along the way. So if you go in and put your key in and someone's been fucking with your lock, the lock actually sings at you.
Well, luckily, I'm the one who's doing it.
You turn the key. No problem. And you're using greater invisibility, yeah?
Well, it's normal invisibility, but as long as I don't cast a spell or do an attack action.
Or do an attack or try to open a door. Yeah, okay.
No, I can open doors. As long as it's just attacking or using a spell.
Oh, that's right. If you open a door, they will see the door opening. That can't be made uninvisible. So that kind of tells them that someone's there, but you are still #invisible.
Yeah, I think you're getting the open door thing from Skyrim.
Maybe, yeah. You get in there, and it is a plush office. You can see that there are exhibits in this office. You can tell this is where the sales pitch for any investors is done. You can see that there's a rock that has a seam of residuum glowing on one stand, proper residuum, gold residuum. You can see that there's some gold ore there. You can see that there's some various crystals. You see a large amethyst geode. You see a bunch of other things. You can see in a secure cabinet, all these other things are too large for someone to just nick easily. But in a secure cabinet, you can see a cut sapphire, cut ruby, a bunch of other things that are in there, just little finds that they've had, even though it isn't a ruby or a sapphire mine, although the two are related. You can see that there's certificates on the walls. There's a letter from the Empress. There's all sorts of stuff there. It's a very kind of show place. You can see that there's a meticulous desk. It's got kind of in tray, out tray, invoices and things like that on, neat looking trays. Perfect calligraphy on it all. You can see the gold tipped pen. You can see that the desk itself is this beautiful lush thing, this leather chair behind it all. And you can see that in the middle of the desk, which is otherwise incredibly clean, there is what seems to be an old letter. There is behind the desk and behind the chair, not hidden, ostentatious and in view, there is a small safe embedded into the wall, and it's roughly the size of your monitor. What would you like to do?
I want to look around the office specifically for any of her documents that mention.
There's the old wooden equivalent of filing cabinets, which are just large drawers that would probably have some sort of dividers inside. going through all her paperwork would be incredibly difficult. You wouldn't have the time, but give me an investigation check for what you are looking at.
Yes. Okay, it's a total of 24.
24. So yeah, the first thing that you see is that based on what your cold read of the room, this room wasn't part of the original panic with the rift. Clearly she wasn't in her office when she got told that the rift had happened. It seems to be well ordered. The chairs are all to one side. And it doesn't seem like anyone's left in a hurry. Like for example, the desk is too neat. It's when you're drawn to the desk that you see the letter, and you recognize immediately the green organization seal. This is a letter that's, as you get closer to it, you can see the date at the top, and the date is dated around about 9.5 years ago.
Ah. Yes, I will read the letter.
Okay. The letter is from Renata Green, and it says, Olasaraka, we value your silence with the recent tragic events of the mine. As your protests have come to me, yes, I did foresee something of this happening. I wasn't entirely sure what was going to happen, but I knew that it was going to become necessary to gauge and understand this, which is going to happen in our city, which was going to happen in our city, and I'm sorry to say, will happen again. The events in your mine are linked to a greater threat, one that you will see in due course. She starts to describe what's going to happen with regard to the factory on the coast. And she says, you can, of course, approach me regarding any of this. I recommend that you keep hold of this letter until the explosion at the coast, at which point you can reread what I'm about to tell you, and then come to me and ask further detail. By that time, I'm sure the Duke will want to speak to you too. On the following date, and it has today's date, the rift will appear in the mine again. Lives will be lost, but this time we will be prepared. We will have enough diamonds and enough favor amongst the gods. All of our clerics will be prepared. In fact, we will find excuses to make sure that all the clerics take light duties, and their power and their connection with the divine is unabashed. Miners will die, but I assure you, all shall survive. On the morning of this date, I shall be sending to you a large consignment of arcanists. They shall be coming from the university and from my various connections around Illyria. They will want to study the rift as it appears. You shall set aside rooms in your administration building where they will be able to set up various experiments to be able to fully gauge the nature of the rift. We will always be under the shadow of this very close demiplane until we know how to sever the bond. This is for the greater good. I ask you not to speak to anybody about this. And after the regrettable choices that you made regarding the safety of your mine after the first incident, I believe you owe us secrecy as we have afforded it to you. Make no mistake, you are paying for your previous mistakes. When the second rift appears, you shall do as we will set out. You'll have the meeting shortly after the explosion at the coast. You will know what I mean when it happens. At that point, our timeline begins. You will make ready. I will make ready. And when the second rift arrives, we will set something in place which means that it will never happen again. Not only that, but the information that we get from the rift will be of the utmost importance. There is a great danger that will come to Ostergard. Shortly after the explosion, you will see this for yourself. You will see Ostergard beset, and yet nothing can avoid this. Tell no friends, tell no allies. You're in this now with me and the Duke himself. Show this to nobody. Although I have a feeling, in time, it will come into the right hands. Unfortunately, you and I don't know each other, and to a certain extent, don't like each other. I came into the city and took power. You were born into the city and earned power. Shortly after the second rift, you will be ordered to resign. We know that you have dedicated your life to this mine and to the people within, regardless of the various infractions that you've had with your employees. You have, for the most part, as far as I'm aware, been a half-decent employer. But you will resign. Everybody will postulate that the Duke has made you resign, and that is for the good. You should be given adequate payment so that you can retire. You can choose to retire in the city of your birth or on any city in Illyria of your choice. We will help you with the relocation. Regardless, we know that you will not be popular, so maybe traveling elsewhere would be a good idea. It's going to be a stressful time, so enjoy the next 7 years. It should be mostly business as usual. When the explosion happens, be ready. You may contact me before then, and I shall explain this to you in greater detail, along with the consequences of not complying. I agree.
I touched the letter because I'm wondering if, considering Renata's foresight, if she somehow enchanted this letter, so when I touch it, that something happens. But I will try. Touch it.
No, nothing happens.
Yeah. Do I take the letter? Should I
You
take
tell
the letter?
us, how kleptomaniac does the cat feel today?
I mean,
You do notice that there is dwarven whiskey next to the letter. Apparently, Ola needed a stiff drink to get through today as she reread the letter. You do also see that looking at the sheafs of paper behind the letter, there's about 3 or 4 other parts of the letter. They are not part of the original letter. They're Ola's notes. She's got shift patterns, the location where the rift is going to be. She has the rooms in the building that you're currently in, where she's going to allow the Arcanists to do their work. She has a penciled widows and orphans fund for the people who die in the mine, and so on. Contacts throughout the city that she needs to make, and also on the final piece of paper, she has a list of potential cities to go to once she leaves. She doesn't seem to be that she's going to stick around in Ostergard.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I don't think we want her around after this.
no, well,
Cora might drive her out herself if needed.
do I take the letter? I feel like I should, but obviously that would make it obvious that someone's been in here. Well, technically, if I take the letter and lock the door, put the key back in.
She will be suspicious as hell, but it could work.
The top city that she's looking at the moment is Ambergarden in Meridia, the seat of House Amberglade.
Cool. I write down some notes of her notes, and then I take the letter, put it in my bag of holding, which is currently invisible because invisibility lasts for an hour.
Yeah.
And I do another scan around the room. Is there anything like incriminating that I can see other than like some opulent stuff?
There's a lot of bling around here. You can see that all the drinks in her cabinet are the very best. You can see even little things, because in this day and age it doesn't sound anything, but even like the brand of ink that she has is the very best brand of ink.
Oh, but that's expensive.
Yeah. This is
You say it doesn't say anything in this day and age, but I know what that means.
Well, put it this way: after the whole Vanta Black fiasco with the Blackest Black thing, where the artists ended up getting together and making a 99.7% black paint that they put out to say fuck you to the Vanta Black guys because they refused to.
Fuck that guy in particular.
Yeah, so yeah, if you don't know, a single artist had the rights to use Vanta Black on an art piece, and then he was like, okay, so nobody else can do it but me. That's all signed and sealed. Fine, I'm not going to use the thing for anything. So he never actually made a piece of art with it. This is good, solid black ink, by which I mean it's not watery in any way, shape, or form. It's very concentrated black ink, very good for writing with. It won't fade, and it's a mixture of pitch and a rare sepia ink.
Oh, nice.
Well, okay, yeah, this. Okay, I'm gonna take the letter and. Gotta go out. Gotta lock the door. Can I reactivate the trap?
No, because you broke the spring.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, she won't notice.
Yeah, she won't notice. She'll only notice if it goes off. So
yeah. And I will quickly find her and put the key back.
Sure. I'm not even going to get you to roll. There's a point where you just go up to her and it's like, right, like that. You do notice that as you kind of drop it in her pocket, her hand goes to her pocket and kind of touches the key. As you put it back in, it kind of slides against her leg and she's like, oh, yeah, no, okay, it's not falling out. And yeah, you've got her letter and your notes of the other pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
And I will go and find the others. And
okay. At this point, Hobra is really getting as much as she can out of Cora and Glory. So she's saying, so let me get this right. You went into the rift. Was that a requirement to close it, that you had to go inside? And she's talking to you as well, Aiden, and Farewell as well.
No. It was to gather information in order to prevent future rifts. The more you know about the phenomenon and where it leads, the easier the enchantments are to make.
Of course. So there was some truth in what Ola said. I felt part of it was bluster, but I was hoping that it was somehow true. So do you believe, Glory, that some ward can be put in place to stop this energy from coalescing in the future?
I believe the ward can be put in to block that specific signature, but we cannot be certain that none other will show up, as if this place is prone to magic going, how do they say it, wild, it can obviously happen again. And the aim
Hobra
is
shows
to...
her education and goes, because the Maelstrom doesn't have a fixed signature like a spell or a plane. It's constantly changing. It is unformatted magic.
Exactly.
There we are. So, okay, so what you're saying is that something that is pretty much, Arcanomancy 101, you can't ward against magic because it comes from Maelstrom, so you can't ward the Maelstrom, but you'll be able to ward from this plane of existence, thereby cutting it off from it bumping into our reality and spilling through?
Exactly.
Well, I'm sure our readers would be very pleased to know that that's something that you're working towards. And she says you're working towards, as if to say, I'm going to be naming you as one of the people making this effort rather than Ola.
Of course.
And there's that nod of agreement. And she says, "No, I think this is what the people need to hear. I think so. I'd like to finish off actually, and you can see she's made some heavy notes here. She goes, I'd like to finish off by if you could sum up either what happened here or your intention going forward into one sentence or a sentence each, what would it be?" And she kind of looks first at you, Glory.
Well, our intention is quite clearly to do to our best ability prevent such a tragedy from unfolding yet again in this city. And hopefully through this effort, we might be able to come up with a new concept that can help prevent rifts in other minds as well around the globe in order to create safer working conditions.
You notice that Hobra writes down, "We will succeed where others failed, and we'll make sure we share the knowledge with others in this situation."
Yeah.
She's not writing it down verbatim.
No, of course not. She's a journalist.
Miss Yosanel.
Yes.
A sentence, a word to either describe what's happened here today or your intentions going forward.
It won't ever happen again. If I have anything to do with it.
A strong response, a committed response, arguably a lot stronger than the ones we got from everybody else. And I hope you don't mind if I quote you verbatim on that. That's something that the people can take to the bank. I mean, they've already seen you save the city. That's going to carry weight. Thank you. And she writes it down. Mr. Canal. Sorry, Commander Canal.
Yes, I thought I was outside, not gonna lie.
Well, you probably you were standing there to be privy, you'd be moral support.
Right.
Any words from you on the situation, and do you believe that there's any part of this that would be directly related to you as Master of the Silver Hunt? I mean, we know that there's some interaction with dead bodies here. Is this a concern for you?
Is this a concern of me?
Not really. I mean, yes, you've seen the interaction with death for the red crystals, but that's about it.
No, not really, unless these are coming back and, forcing their jaws onto other people's heads, then I think it's not my concern.
I'm sure that our readers will be relieved to hear that we've already had demons. I don't think undead is something they deserve right now. And she scratches it down and then says, "Father Barebones, and anything from yourself." And you watch as Farewell considers something, and he says, "Actually, no. My compatriots here have given you everything you need." And she goes to put something down on the paper, then goes, "Well said. Well said. Do give my regards to Ms. Eclipse. I'm sorry, I don't. We haven't."
Hello.
And she shoots around as you become visible behind her. Goes, "Oh, I'm afraid we're already done here, but
He does that all the time. Don't worry.
Can I say thank you so much for your efforts and being able to rescue everybody here. I've got what I need, and I need to get off to the presses. But thank you all."
You're welcome.
As she leaves, the bard in leather walks up, and she goes, "Yeah, I got this too. I got it all down." Puts the.
What newspaper do you write for?
I I deal with guild newsletters mostly. Guilds and close circles of nobles. My letters go out to most of the lords, ladies, monarchs of Meridia, Hinterlands, Sylvania, Ostrom. Yeah, I'm not a. I don't do the paper that the people read. I send letters. I go to where I need to be. Items of import. That's the name of the letter. Items of import. And I send them out to the powerful, whether they be organizations or individuals, to understand what needs to be considered in their own kingdoms. I visit war zones, threats of a great nature that heroes have to step forward to, the eve of political factions overthrowing governments, that kind of thing. Keeps me on the road. But I believe that without communication between countries, we're going to achieve very little. I was just wondering, it's a good thing you came back, because you were gone from the city, weren't you?
Yes.
May I ask where you were?
I stare at Glory.
Simply visiting home for a few days.
Ah, Skara. I've been there often myself. There's always something happening in Skara.
Always.
Very well. Out of curiosity, any plans of where you're going next?
Well, we do have a few places that need us visiting, just to tie up loose ends.
Okay.
Preparing for the inevitable.
The inevitable? What would that be?
Why? Our cat here, lovely Eclipse, she is hunting for a magical artifact, and
Yes.
well, we've promised to help.
There I was thinking that you were the consummate altruists, treasure hunters as well. You truly are.
Not as much treasure hunter as tag along, since so far we've found quite a few magical mysteries along the way. Quite interesting.
Well, clearly whatever you're doing is paying off. I'm sure that the various nobles and guilds throughout Illyria will want to know, that will be reassured that you're on the job. You really are ones to keep an eye on. See you later. And she gives you a not unfriendly smile, not flirtatious, not unfriendly, but just kind of shrewd smile, and walks away. And you can see that she is herself an adventurer.
Yeah.
You can see the muscle tone, the scars, the calluses on her hands, whereas Hobra is very much a lady of fashion and favor. Very two different types of reporters there. We're going to find out what you're going to do in the city, but first of all, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we will see everybody when we get back.
See you soon.
Bye.
And we are back. As you can see, we have Rodrigo missing. Get well soon, dude. So Rodrigo's feeling a bit under the weather, so we will see him next time. We are going to continue with Kate, Corinne, and Felicia. You see Hopra walking away, satisfied that she's now got her story. And the other bard, which I forgot, I didn't give you her name. She does introduce herself as Sadira Trikar. And she heads off as well. You're left with a lot of people still kind of looking at you and kind of giving you thumbs up gratefully. They know what you've done. A lot of the people that are left now are miners who are part of the effort, who's just kind of tidying up. Priests who are now heading back down the road from the mine into the city. And with a quick kick of the carpet, Farewell says, shall we?
Yeah.
He steps onto the carpet and says, so where to? And he's looking pointedly at Cora.
Yeah,
Let's go back to Hork and Harness to have this discussion before we continue with our efforts at the Raven Queen Temple. I'm sure Farewell won't mind us disappearing for a little bit.
Yeah, and Farewell says, yeah, that makes sense. I'll go see if Alan needs any help. Yeah. Eclipse, you drive. Carefully. And he relinquishes the carpet to Eclipse and starts trudging down with a couple of Raven Queen clerics. So you go back to the Hawk and Harness, and you know that you've got probably now about an hour and a half until you can speak to Renata. It is, let's see, it is about 7 p.m. Shops open until fairly late here, some of them. You might be able to get hold of Margatterol at the shop, being that it's not just a shop, but it's a place where she makes things.
Question, is PM evening or morning again?
Evening.
Evening,
Okay.
post Meridia.
Yeah, I still don't understand these not real times. Games keep using them. They don't make sense. What is wrong with the standard 24-hour clock?
So
It's the internal question.
It's 7 hours past the sun being at its height.
so what sort of time is it in game? Oh, you literally just said this, right?
7 p.m.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'm with it. That's fine.
I know that
7 p.m.
the concept of time is difficult for you because you're on not even California time now. You're on was it Red Dead Online time?
I don't even know. Like literally, I wasn't feeling tired when I was up all night, and then I wasn't feeling tired, and I think I finally fell asleep at around midday, and I got up not long before this stream. So it should be the most awake of all of us, but 7
That's
p.m.
not how it works usually.
Oh, I know, that's just true. I'm not a morning person.
Fair enough. Neither am
I
I.
used to hate having erratic shifts because when I worked for this one major drugs company, that they do really weird shifts where it's not even 4 on, 4 off, or 4 days, 4 off, 4 nights, 4 off. They do this weird fucking thing to the point where your body doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing. So you don't get any of the kind of body clock stuff going on. So you'll be there at like 2 a.m. going, yeah, I'm going to go make a main meal. And then you'll be on the way to work, at 7 a.m. or something like that. And halfway to work, your body will just go, okay, shut down now. And honest to God, I knew I had to leave that place when I fell asleep whilst walking. And I was like, thankfully, I was walking down a country lane. I wasn't walking into a road or anything, but I only knew that my eyes were closed and I was falling asleep when I walked into a tree. Thankfully, it was only a tree. But yeah, I'm kind of glad I have regular hours now. Anyway, that aside, you're back at the Hawk and Harness and ready to go ahead. Cora has to steel herself to speak to her mother, and also apparently you need to speak to Renata Green about more than one thing.
Yeah.
I got a letter.
Yeah, you do need to discuss that. So.
Yeah, I assumed that was what we were going back for.
Well,
Because we
it
have
puts
our
in the hot
private
mind
booth.
of just bringing out the letter when we're talking to Renata.
Well, that's up to you completely because we don't know about the letter, right?
No, no, you don't know yet. No.
So, well, I think, Cora, much as she wants to, do what her father says and stuff, but she's been wanting to do that for the last year or so anyway. I think she wants closure on this before she does that, really. So I don't think that's going to be her main priority right now. I want to sort out this mess.
Okay.
So hold on. So we were going to see Renata after 2 hours. Is this about
Renata
the 2
told
hour
you,
point?
You can just wait until the 2 hours are up and then go to see her.
Well, fresh enough. We've been in a mine after all.
We have, and we've been in a mine and a completely different university thing and stuff. So yeah, let's go back to the Hawk and Harness.
You're already there.
Right, we're at
Freshen
the Hawk and
up.
Harness. Freshen up, grab some food, try and
the
get
real
our
reason
bearings.
Cora wants to go back.
That's the real reason. I didn't want.
The real reason, yeah.
Yeah.
And we will. Yes, and we'll sit and if Eclipse decides to bring up the letter, that's fine. Or I expect we'll ask her what she found. I mean, it makes sense to go.
You knew that she went off.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
did you find anything of use? Anything unusual? Anything that could help us? Sorry, I should say that in character. But yeah, did you? What did you find? Anything?
Yes, I found some things, but I think we should discuss it all together with Renata.
Oh, she had a hand in that too, eh?
Something
I'm not
like
even surprised anymore.
True. All right. Well, fine. If you think she is involved or something, let's just. We meant to see her in a bit, so we'll go head over there as soon as we We're ready. Nom nom nom.
Oh no.
Yeah, Noki these days knows that if you've come in and just sat at the table instead of going upstairs, he just comes out with your what he knows to be your favorites from what is the menu of the day.
Mhm.
You fill up, and 2 hours later, you are on the way to the Green Mansion. The second that you come into the mansion, you can see that the business of the day, being that 7 o'clock, hour and a half late, about 8:30, even though this place is always open for business, you can see that now the guards that are normally there during the day and stood up have gone. It's the night shift of the guards there, and you can see. I'll say that Hester is one of the people there, and she's just sat there playing Three Dragon Ante with a bunch of the other guards. You know, it's quiet. No one in the mansion is a victim here.
Nope.
Even the clerks all know a certain amount of defensive magic, and anybody who gets to Renata's got the whole fucking hell to pay. And so, you know, she's just chilling out, and as you come in, says, "Ah, here we go, heroes of the hour again. You got some sort of compass that points you to it, or what?"
Sometimes
Oh,
it
if
does
it
seem
only
that
was
way.
that easy.
Nothing changes. Okay, well, hey, you know, as long as I'm not on duty, hit me up sometime. I could do with a little bit of, I don't know, bit of extra exercise. Get out there, challenge myself.
That's
I'm
true.
sure we will.
should. These work for you, right? And I hold up the button badge thing that we still have.
She shows you the one on the belt and says, "Yeah, of course."
Sorry, we
Good.
should think about that more.
We haven't fought side by side since that bloody Witch Queen creature. Where you been? Where you been to?
Oh, visited home for a little bit. Went looking for another one of Eclipse's obsessions.
See, now that sounds interesting. That last one. I must admit, Atol's around, not really my place.
It's not the place for most people.
No.
Yeah.
No judgment, but
Oh, I'm perfectly aware.
yeah. I was thinking maybe of hitting Meridia at some point. There's a bunch of blue dragonborns. They live on top of a mountain. Apparently, they got like a soul of a dead dragon that protects them. Sounds cool.
That would be fascinating to study. I
Wow.
mean, dragons are powerful even in death, so it isn't surprising that they'd managed to curry the favor of one.
Well, you know, obviously, with my heritage, and you can see, you know, she's this bronze dragonborn.
Yeah.
With sorry, she's brass dragonborn actually.
I thought she was blue.
No, Hester was always brass. Occasionally I say bronze by accident, but no, she's not blue. And she says, well, you know, yeah, I wouldn't mind going and I say Atol's around's not my kind of place, but there's some places in Scarra that I've heard are pretty nice, actually. And by nice, I mean like tourist worthy.
Yeah, some of the regions specialize more in tourism than others.
Yeah. Told that
We
there's
do
some...
our fair share, but it's not for everyone.
Well, yeah.
I don't think any part of that Atsaran counts as tourism.
You haven't even been to the seaside yet. We've only been in the main cities because you're with me.
I want to go somewhere in the mountains, you know? Apparently some of the Silver Dragon cities are amazing.
Oh yeah, they've always prided themselves on perfection.
Okay, might give it a shot. Anyway, enough rabbiting. She called down a little earlier, said that you're on your way. Best not keep her waiting.
All right.
You head up, and Renata's actually in a softer set of clothes. You can see that she's got soft slipper-like shoes on. She's wearing. You've only ever seen her in a dress up until now.
Mhm.
She's wearing what I would call kind of like, they're not like harem pants, but they're like soft, kind of lounge pants. And she's got, I guess, like a kind of toga-ish top. It's still very beautiful, as brocaded on the neck and all the rest of it. It's what you would expect to be almost like a, I don't know, ladies' pajamas if she knew that she had guests, for example.
Yeah.
And you can see that she is not sat at a desk. She's actually sat on the big sofas in front of the fire, and she's cradling what seems to be a large cup of coffee and sipping it, and says, well, take a seat. Come on, we've got a lot to talk about.
Indeed do. That
And
riff was interesting, to say the least.
she touches the coffee pot, and you watch as the bit that her finger touches glows red for a second as she reheats the coffee, and just pushes the whole tray towards your side of the coffee table and says, please, go ahead. So, this is pretty much the last part that I consider to be my preparations for him coming.
Oh, really?
What did you discover?
Well, other than the quite obvious case of red residuum growing out of the bodies due to the natural release of energy that's created upon death. A fascinating place. Definitely a plane that he was in charge of, or perhaps considered his. A final showdown, perhaps?
That's my belief as well. So first of all, yes, bodies release energy upon death as part of pressing upon the world the cause and effect that you have on the world. You collect energy that is akin to, if not magic. When you die, you are no longer going to have an effect, or less of an effect. Only your legacy has an effect, but you can't change anything with your will anymore. That gets released as your soul leaves the body and the world behind. That energy normally goes into the prime material plane, and it's part of the great circle of life. Near this realm, that gets caught in the ether, manifests as a physical item, and that's the red crystals, the red residuum, which I doubt is residuum at all. I believe it's let's see, distilled, crystallized will. And how do we create or alter or influence if not by the application of will? The gods themselves, it's their will that drives them to be able to do things.
Yes.
Yes, they have power, but it's the will that shapes it. It's the control aspect of it all. I believe that the architect had his final showdown with the gods in that demi.
Oh yeah, that was a conclusion as well.
Yes, that was it. Certainly looked like that. Also, one thing I did at the end is I went and had a look in Ola Soraka's office, and I found a letter.
Ah, yes, the letter I sent.
Yeah.
Could you fill us in on the rest of us don't understand your time magic and the thieving. So, what letter? What did you wrote a letter to Ola?
Yes, and I read out the letter.
She goes, yes, I recall. I wrote every letter.
Yeah.
I knew that there was going to be an accident at the mine the first time round. I didn't know a great deal about what was going to happen. There were deaths, some that we found that we couldn't prevent, some that we could. I believe the rift swallowed a few people, your father being one of them. And he was beyond saving. We couldn't return his soul to his body along with a number of other people. I believe that no dead bodies went through into that realm. And so as a result, it's you and I that went to see it. And yes, I have gone and I spoke to you and came back. As far as everybody else is concerned, I've been resting for the last 2 hours. I came back around about 15 minutes before you arrived, so I'm somewhat exhausted.
Of course. It is fascinating, though. You knew about the last rift, and yet so much happened. From what I've understood from Cora's enlightening experience, you couldn't prevent it, but what did you exactly do back then?
I closed the rift. They believe the rift closed on its own, but it didn't. I did. We collected up the residuum, we started to study it, started to look at what was going on. I'm sure that if Farewell was here, he would tell you, I wouldn't be able to know what we found out from studying it by looking forward into the future unless we studied it. So once I'd seen it, we had to do it.
Yes.
Oh yes, the time paradoxes, I understood. And
then I realized that by studying only a certain amount of it after the rift had closed, I also knew that we had to wait for the rift to open again for us to get an energy signature. Thankfully, a small amount of the red residuum has been entrusted from the first rift to some of my friends, and over the last 7 or so years, they have been studying to be prepared for the next rift so that they can make the correct measurements and start formulating a form of ward. This is going to be equal parts spell and enchantment. We're intending to create a device. The device will basically consistently cast a spell over and over and over again. So it'll be a standing magical effect. We'll keep fueling
Makes
it with
sense.
regular residuum, and it will keep us safe from that plane of existence.
Well, that is assuming that the residuum in the cave isn't already tainted by that plane.
No. You can't change regular residuum into red residuum, or whatever. We need to get a better name for this. It is formed completely differently. Even though it has similar qualities, we are now convinced that it is a completely different substance.
That's good, at least.
Depends on your point of view. But yes, I kept Ola around for 2 reasons. First of all, I needed somebody to take the fall when this happened a second time. Ola was neglectful the first time round, and she needed punishment. But I figured using her was as good as punishing her. She will be given a small amount of money, but she will be safely transported to the city of her choice in the prime material plane. But she will not enjoy the luxuries that she once knew under us, unless she builds them again herself.
Yes.
She was happy to send members of the city into great danger, knowing full well that we had the magical and mechanical technology to make them safer, as safe as a miner can be. And she decided it was not cost effective. I look after my people and they look after me. I tell them what needs to be done and they do it because they trust that I'm telling them for a reason. You know that reason. Ola was a bad leader.
Well, that did seem like she wasn't really clear on
Eclipse, are you all right?
You seem
No.
to be staring into the middle distance.
All I was saying stuff, and yes, yeah, she didn't seem like she cared much.
Oh, she cared plenty about her own interests.
Ola is a businesswoman first. A good one, as far as I've heard. Her humanity comes second. And
Her business
don't like
sense
it
would
that
be
way.
more in line of that of, well, my homeland than anywhere else in the world.
Renata very professionally does not react to your sentence. But then I do what's necessary as well, and people have criticized me for that. Anyway, my theory now is more resolute than ever. I believe that that metaplane was where the gods had their final showdown with the being that we know as the architect.
Well,
I
we
would have
did
liked to have studied it.
interview a few of them. Or, well, one.
You interviewed what?
One
Well,
of the dead
Farewell did.
demons.
Ah, yes, he spoke with their echoes.
Yes.
Anything interesting come from that?
Oh, plenty. It was the Dawnfather and the what's she called?
Melora.
Melora, the All
Melora.
No,
Yeah.
mother.
And the All-Mother who struck him down, so to say. A betrayal of the highest order, according to his followers.
There's a sad look on her face, and she says, well, to be struck down by one's mother and father, to not feel their protection anymore, to just be told that you're no longer needed. I don't think that his
Anger
rage,
is unfound? No.
his
neither
rage
do I.
isn't unfounded, but that still doesn't make him any less of a problem. But it's something that we may be able to use. If we end up having to speak to him, we can distract him with that. His connection with the gods and the fact that they were his de facto parents, that's got to trigger something. He may be an immortal being, but he's an emotional one. That we already know. For all
Yeah.
he seems to
His
strive for
ego
perfection.
is easy to stroke, and thusly he can be manipulated.
There we
We
are.
can probably anger him enough that he will, forget his inhibitions.
Hopefully we can make some use of it. In the meantime, that plane of existence, I believe, was not made by the gods. I believe it was made by him. I think he
Yes.
So do I. It
made
looks
some sort
too
of-
uniform to be of the god's design.
it certainly wasn't something complex. I believe
No.
it was an arena of his own choosing. He knew that the gods were coming after him, and he created a place where he knew that he would be as much as possible on an even playing field. Which means that plane is probably his last work.
Yes. It wasn't very inspired.
I don't think it was meant to be beautiful or it was meant to be inspired. I believe he may
Practical.
have placed practicality, defensible, maybe an insurance policy. It's been making me wonder. He's not been able to get to this plane of existence until we experimented on those crystals. He was looking to use life energy for those crystals to grow. They're powerful. They're attractive. They're just like rubies. You don't even have to cut them. They just appear magnificent and perfectly clear. She gets up, walks over to her desk, opens up a box, picks out a small crystal of red residuum, the only piece I keep nearby, to study only. She holds it up to the light, and the crystal is perfect, flawless. Not a blemish or a bubble or a seam, no smoke. and performs perfectly. It's that square rhomboid crystal in her fingers that, if it were a ruby, would probably be somewhere in the region of 6,000-7,000 gold. Just for its cut alone. Perfectly symmetrical, the light bends beautifully within the crystal. She takes it back, puts it back in the box. You see the box is covered in sigils that seem to have been engraved into the box, presumably heavily warded.
It's made to be sought after. He wants people to come in contact with them.
And that's where Edmund came in. I managed to steer him so that he knew his mistakes, but I honestly believe that once he saw those crystals, there was no way he was letting it go. Once he found out they were powerful, there was no way he was going to let it go. So guiding him to the point where he would soon be disgusted by them, his sense of honor, the only thing that is more compelling to him than victory or wishing away certain morals because he believes he's acting for the greater good of his people. We're here now. Of all the various threads on the tapestry, I've managed at least to get us here. You've chosen your own path, but Ostigard is in the right place now. I believe that we can ward against the rifts, thereby stopping any further incursions. We haven't seen any sign of the activity that we had before with the architect. But then the last time it took an explosion to summon him.
Oh yeah, that was our fault.
Not our fault as much as the fact that
it was meant to be.
Yeah. What I'm more curious about is how you're planning to deal with this next insurgent. Even if we ward against this, he's gonna come back. That's what all this leads to.
Not necessarily.
Well, first of all, we can make it harder for him to cross over. He's aiming to come back to this city. He's already said so. We can make it so that it's harder for him to punch through. If it takes more than simply pushing through the barrier between worlds, that he has to hammer at the gates, that will give us a certain amount of time to prepare. And time is a very important asset. Then on top of that, when he does break through, which I believe will be unavoidable, maybe a ward of this kind, spells that can counter some of his effects, maybe. Anything that will work against the resonance of his being, that could be enough to weaken him enough that us mere mortals may do to him what once only gods could achieve.
You want us to strike down a piece of divinity.
It's been done before.
It has, and I'm in. After all, nobody can say they've defeated something stronger than me then. Wouldn't you guys say so?
I mean, I don't think that's quite the right motivation.
Oh, please. Anything I can hold over my family is good motivation.
At this point, I'll take any motivation that keeps you on board. We're doing this for friends, family, innocence. I've seen ahead. Every miner that died today will come back. We kept them away from the rift for when it went under. We saw quick enough that we were able to call them back just before the rift exploded. None were drawn in. It was just rubble. Even the ones that ended up with the crystals on them should be able to come back. I've foreseen it. I guess the next step now is deciding how we're going to use what we have. Farewell has 2 of the bodies and is studying them now.
He does. He also
Yeah.
has the rest on their way, so to say.
He has a few of them. The rest are going to the Pelor Temple to be raised there. We believe that the Raven Queen temple was not appropriate. You take a body there to die, not to come back. Though her priests are as capable as anybody else to bring people back from the dead.
They're also very good at preventing death.
They are. The Pelor is about hope. And I'd like to bring these miners back under the banner of hope. I'm hoping that they might be able to tell us something. The way that they died and the proximity to what they died. Maybe they heard something or saw something close to their death. The resurrection takes a while. We won't know anything till morning.
Well, even if we won't know anything about that for a while, we can still plan around it. After all, there's plenty of things that needs to be addressed in the city first and foremost. Defensives, most of all. I assume you're helping the Duke in doing whatever is achievable in the time we have.
Yes, we've been amassing funds and materials to see if we could fight in some sense of using uncreation to undo any of the creations that this architect
He
created.
puts together. Fascinating. It would be an interesting prospect to undo his creations in front of him to see how he would react.
We believe that in some cases, countering the effect, so rather than countering a spell, I don't believe that he uses spells as we know it.
No, of course
We
not.
can instead do things like unravel the magic as he's using it. It's more of a divine thing, though. And to my knowledge, there's no such thing as a divine counter magic. We're breaking new ground on this one. The priests are asking their respective gods if there's a way of doing this. Some people are saying that the priests will probably not get a huge amount of support from the gods. They are, after all, asking what kind of magic can defy a god.
Well, I do believe we have the correct priest for the job in that case. Unfortunately, he's tied up with some dead bodies, but at least the Raven Queen seems to be more open to ideas.
Being a once mortal god, I'm hoping that she has a slightly more understanding viewpoint on the position.
Indeed. And besides, she still hasn't taken Farewell up on the offer of going out for drinks.
She kind of looks to see if you're shitting her, and then she just rolls her eyes as if to say, only you. Only you lot could end up getting a date with a god. Either way, I believe that she could help us. She herself defied the gods when she became one. Maybe she has to understand that every now and again we have to do that as people. As a people, rather than an individual. Also, there's a spell. It's of a high circle, but we learn it as wizards and sorcerers as we go along. It's called disintegration.
Oh yes, I do have my own version of that.
It's
family secret.
As you'll know, it'll be an unweaving of matter. He creates matter. There's no reason to say that we can't destroy it.
Everything that exists can be destroyed. It's only a matter of using the correct tools for the job.
I believe we called your acid version of this dissolution instead of disintegration.
Melt.
Melt.
Melt. Yeah. Okay.
Just a simple Like unassuming, like, okay, yeah, she uses acid, she melts things.
We believe that this level of spell is going to be what's needed to be used on his foot soldiers alone when he comes back. He's
But even
the
on the
measure of
foot
us.
soldiers, that is a lot of power thrown around willy-nilly. And I do not believe there's enough mages in this city to cover so many slots. So to say, that's a lot of energy.
Scorm or Hermit, do me a favor and swing at that bot, please. So, yeah, we thank you. The she says, we as a people have shown what we can do together. Last time it was individuality that the architect was unable to deal with. I believe now he's going to think his way past that, not care about individuals and be just looking for raw power, raw devastation. I believe that when he comes into Ostergeld, he will herald his presence by leveling the city that he previously was defeated by.
Of course.
The people are ready, and I believe that if I can foresee him coming, there are still too many strands, too many possibilities as to when he's going to come. But now that I have the signature of his magic, by using that plane that he created, I believe that I can focus on when he's most likely to arrive. And when he does so, I don't want a city waiting.
That'll be quite dangerous, though. By attuning to him, you are essentially opening the gates.
Only if I'm looking for it. I can't access it, you're correct. And that's why the arcanists that I brought to study the rift were ones that I could trust. Not only do I trust them, I trusted their families, their ancestors to do the right thing. This is a lot of my previous work coming to bear. I want it so that when he arrives, he doesn't find a city. He finds the largest bear trap you've ever seen.
Interesting.
We'll turn each home into a fortress.
Manage that.
We will turn each home into a fortress, each street into a bottleneck. The people who are waiting in the streets will be not civilians, but platoons, legions. Those who can't fight, they'll go elsewhere until Ostergeld is safe. Those who can fight will be trained. And the training starts now. I've contacted every faction in the city. This second rift and the portent that it has of him maybe returning, that's what I'm going to be using. We're going to be training the Green Organization, the Thieves Guild. The merchants are going to provide the logistics to be able to get people's possessions packaged up in crates and stored outside of the city. They're going to make sure that carts are available so that at very short notice we can get the young, the old, those who are unable to fight due to health reasons, expectant mothers, out of the city very, very quickly. And we're going to start building our defenses. Ostergeld's always been a city of industry, but we're going to start making it so that doors are no longer made of wood. We're going to have doors braced with metal, windows with bars, not just on the outside, but going through the masonry, almost impossible to tear out. every window will become a narrow slit. Everybody will have access to high-powered weapons, crossbows. We've commissioned half of the factories in the city to stop what they're doing and to start producing instruments of war.
Do we have any idea if... Is there any way we can measure his way of return at all?
Not really. Once the threads start to part and I know which one we're on, I'll be able to tell you more. But for now, the path that you've chosen of your own free will seems to be the best one. I can see in a future that Jordan will stand with us. And I believe that's what you need to go towards.
Oh yes, we've been working on that. He's currently bit of a loony corpse if Eclipse's latest vision is something to be believed. And yes, the cat does get visions now. It's slightly concerning.
Yes, I get visions. But the most interesting thing is that did you know we have a very good theory that the architect has tried this before and he was defeated by someone.
And that someone was, well, Jordan.
Jordan has defeated him before?
Yes. That's our theory at the moment. It's very likely.
So interesting.
There is stories about him fighting a very great threat. This threat being described in a way that makes us think it has, because there was a bunch of demons involved and devils. That seems all to point to the architect.
Okay. Then that's why he was so important in so many of the threads. If you end up getting him and pushing us onto that thread, then that will hugely increase our cause. I was always under the impression that he came out of favor with the gods. Pelor particularly, Pelor was his patron. He, at a touch, could heal the sick. He could get people who had crippling injuries to stand up and walk or talk or do whatever anybody else could. And it's said that he could strike with the force of Pelor itself. I always thought that poetics, but is it possible that he could strike in the same way that Pelor struck at the architect?
It's a possibility, if nothing else. And
well, the reason why we think it has a lot to do with Pelor and stuff is because the Jordan definitely wielded the spark of divinity because he gave a devil a soul, which he then split into 6 parts, possibly 7, which I currently have 4 of.
You can't split a soul.
Well,
no, but she split her very being at the very least. We're not quite sure.
She would be a lich if she split her soul.
well, not split her soul, but she split her beings. You know these jars I have, and I pull them out.
She sees the jars for the first time with the information you've given us so far, and she goes, When I was a little girl, one of the times I was a little girl, I used to see this street hustler, and she takes the canopic jars and she starts basically doing the ball and cup with them. sliding them over the table. I believe that she placed herself in one of these jars and then made it look like she was in all of them. Wonder how that works. If you're evading a fiend, is it that if they pick the wrong jar and they try to suck out the soul, something?
Well,
bad?
all of the jars has essentially her essence, so that's why I think she split herself.
Or she's
I
just
believe that
implanting it
she-
with her magic eclipse. We were over this. It wasn't a confirmed theory. It was just what we could figure out with our limited resources.
And you were not wrong to go to that conclusion. That's something that I would have come to as well. But I honestly believe that once she was given a soul, the last thing she'd do is corrupt it by turning herself into a lich. I believe that very cleverly, her soul is in one of these jars, but her personality, her mind, is split. Now that you can split and put back together and all sorts. I've been doing it for generations. I pass my memories on to the next me. I believe that's what she's done. Anyone who tries to look for Karnatava finds all of these. And yet, you won't be able to just simply, if you're a fiend, open up one of these jars and chow it down like it's elven brandy. Not if she's put something in the other jars, which means that you have well, how many jars did you say there were? 6, 7?
6, possibly 7.
Which means you've got a 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 chance of devouring a soul, but you've got a 6 in 7 or 5 in 6 chance of something really bad happening to you. And if anybody knew how to screw up a fiend, it would be Karnatava.
Which is why we think she's done this. She's hidden herself in such a way that, well, when the time comes, she can be put together again.
If she split her mind, chances are it's dormant. I'm dormant when I split my mind. It's only when I hit the trigger, normally that one of my incarnations comes of age, that I end up gaining all my memories from across the various generations. Could be the same thing here. Once you bring all the parts of her mind together, they snap together, and she wills herself to reform, maybe. I think she and I would get along. Very intuitive, a very ingenious person. Well,
Either way, we think she's the key to unlocking, saving, restoring, whatever you want to call it with Jordan.
it won't be easy. They have to flee that place. Chances are, if she does come back together, she'll need warriors of particular strength and renown to get her back to her loved one.
Who would that be?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let's hope we find someone up for the job. Or in the end, maybe it's just going to be an audacious thief that can sneak her through the window like lovers at midnight.
Sure hope so.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if it was that, considering their history.
I guess destiny's hand is in this. I've always hated destiny. I prefer to choose my own.
Oh, yes. We may have a duty to play, but every choice we make should be our own. Which is why I'm against that necklace you have. And Glory looks at Eclipse.
It's fine. You're not wearing it, are you?
No, but the fact that you have it.
Yes, and all my choices are my own.
You say that, but they really aren't.
Do you think that my choices I have done has been by someone else's influence, if you really think about it?
too much of cat for it, but you've definitely been guided by that thing.
Oh.
Best
I
part of being a
didn't
DM,
have-
give someone an amulet of destiny. I choose my own path, and you are destined to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even had this amulet for that long, Glory, so...
Yeah, it was only your own curious nature that betrayed you up until then.
Either way, I think that we stand in very good stead. We have arguably one of the greatest thieves the world has ever known. We have a woman made almost entirely of dreams. We have her grandfather's daughter, and she, in what is uncharacteristic for Renata, who's normally very formal, goes up and just runs her fingers down one of your wings.
Yeah.
We have a priest who is on first name terms with death. And we have an army and a commander. I believe that once all of the houses of the Blood Hunters come together, once we have the denizens of the Feywild led by a valiant knight, once we have the power of the dragon behind us, and also a good insurance policy with death herself, we'll be ready to take on this kind of divinity. But the final push is required. I recommend that you start putting your affairs in order. If there's any personal effects that you need to resolve, any life goals that are easily achieved in time, don't let time slip away. Even I fall to that. Living forever means knowing that you can regret.
Can't hear what you said there, Sammy. You were too low a volume.
Okay. Living even as long as I have, you know that time can slip from your fingers. I've spent lifetimes dwelling on lifetimes wasted. So get yourselves ready. The next push is not going to be easy. In order for you to restore Juranan, in order for Farewell to get to the level of proficiency that he needs to be able to affect the architect, in order for Cora to know her true nature, all of these things are going to be vital. And Glory, are you really all the dragon you need to be for this?
If I'm not, then we'll know for sure soon enough. But I believe I am. And I will be.
My words to you. Prepare in earnest. Pull your allies together. Get the artifacts, get the spells, get the influence you need and deserve. This has been hard fought for. We have time. Not much left. And with that, we're going to wrap up the session. Both Renata and the DM saying, get ready, fight's coming.
No. Oh boy.
So a big thank you to everybody viewing today, and big thank you to Kate, Felicia, Corinne, and Rodrigo, as long as they were here. I hope that your headache is dying down.
And that Nick had a good birthday. Yeah,
I was going to say a big happy birthday to Nick. I think his birthday's tomorrow, so send out love on Discord for him, and I hope he's having a fantastic weekend. We will be joining you on Monday for Ed and Numenera. I know that Ed is in Gen Con this weekend.
Well, he's not in, he's doing it online.
Yes, Gen Con is kind of online, so well, mostly online at the moment. I think there is a physical Gen Con and an online Gen Con. They covered their bases there. But yeah, so Ed is going to be running games and playing games in Gen Con, to my knowledge. And so I don't know if he's going to be in on Monday, but if he is, join us there for Numenera. And we will have the ongoing Excelsior Rising. So we've only got 4 sessions of that left. And I can't believe we spent an entire session of trying to get Star out of a friggin' bedroom. But let's catch up where we can, shall we? Until then, have a great weekend. I know that it's been a long week for a lot of us, so we're looking forward to relaxing ourselves. And don't be a stranger online. Some of us are going to be playing some games over the weekend, so give us a shout, and maybe you'll be playing with us. Until then, good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.